Hi everyone and welcome to your ICE Assembly for this week. Now you might have noticed it's just me here by myself. Anne-Marie's not with us this week, but she looks forward to being back again soon. So this half term we're going to be thinking about travelling. There are lots of travelling stories in the Bible, and through those travels people learned lots about relationships. Relationships with themselves, relationships with God, and relationships with one another. And we're going to be thinking of one such travelling story that's connected to the Easter story that we've recently been learning about. But before we get to that, I have a question, and it's a question about words. So let's have a think about that.
I'm going to give you 4 words, and I wonder if you can guess what they all mean. They all mean the same thing. The first word is confabulation. The second word is repartee. The third word is chinwag. And the fourth word is natter. Can you guess what they mean? You might have got it. They are all ways to describe having a conversation.
Some of those describing words are really interesting, aren't they? I think my favourite one is chinwag, because you can imagine the chin wagging while someone's talking. But why are we talking about conversations? Well, conversations are a big part of relationships, aren't they? We have long conversations, we have short conversations, we have silly conversations and serious conversations. And in today's story, there was a very important conversation that 2 travellers had with an apparent stranger. And that conversation changed everything. It changed their perspective on some very big events that had been happening. So let's take a moment to look at that story today.
Today's story is about 2 travellers. The Bible gives us the name of one of them. His name was Cleopas, and he was one of Jesus' followers. We don't know the name of the second traveller. It could have been one of Cleopas's friends. It could have been his wife, Mary. But what we do know about them was that they were also a follower of Jesus. And another thing the Bible tells us is that these travellers were very sad. You see, they were travelling from Jerusalem, where just a couple of days before, all their dreams for the last 3 years had suddenly come to an end. Their teacher, Jesus, had been taken by the Romans and killed on the cross. They'd seen him taken down to be buried in a tomb, and it seemed like the end of everything they'd been hoping for. Now the only thing to do was to travel the 7 miles back home to their village, called Emmaus. It would take them about 2 hours to get home, if they didn't stop for a snack along the way. As they walked along the long road, they talked about everything that had happened. During this conversation, a third person joined them on the road. It was Jesus, but he didn't let them recognise him just yet. He asked them, "What's this I hear you're talking about as you walk along the road?" Distracted from their sadness for a second, the travellers looked at their fellow traveller with surprise. "You must be the only person in Jerusalem who doesn't know what happened here," Cleopas said. Jesus asked them again, what were they talking about? "It's about Jesus, the one from Nazareth," they said. They told him that Jesus was a great prophet who had done many powerful things, but that he'd been handed over by their leaders to be judged and killed, and he'd died on a cross. "We were hoping that he'd be the one to free Israel, but then all of this happened." Then they told him of something amazing that had happened. "Today, some of our women went to the tomb where Jesus' body lay, but they didn't find his body there." They told Jesus that their friends had seen some angels who told them that Jesus was alive, and that some of them had gone to the tomb and it was just like they said. Jesus' body wasn't there anymore. Jesus told them, "You are slow to realise what's true. You should believe what the prophets said." He wanted to show them that it was all part of God's plan. And so, he walked alongside them all the way to Emmaus, explaining everything in the scriptures that would help them to understand why Jesus had died, and why that was the start of a glorious new beginning. They walked for 7 miles together, and it was getting late by the time they got to Emmaus. Jesus acted as if he wasn't planning to stop, but the travellers wanted him to stay. "Stay with us, it's almost night," they told him. And so he went to their house to stay with them. It was supper time, and at the table, Jesus took some bread, and he thanked God for it. Then he broke some off and gave it to them. At that moment, they realised who it was. It was Jesus. But the moment they saw who he was, he disappeared. Amazed, they told each other, "When he talked to us on the road, it felt like a fire burning in us," and realised how exciting it had been when Jesus had been explaining the scriptures to them. Well, it was late now, but nothing was going to stop the friends from sharing their news. They got up then and there and hurried back the 7 miles to Jerusalem. They found the other followers of Jesus meeting together, and before they could even share their story, they heard, "Jesus has really risen again. He appeared to Simon." Overjoyed, they shared their story too, and everyone was filled with amazement.
Now that was a conversation and a half, wasn't it? Completely world-changing for those two travellers. It changed their situation from one of despair and having had a really hard time to one of joy and new hope again. But I sometimes read that story and come out with a question, which is, why didn't Jesus just show his friends who he was straight away? Surely he could have dealt with their feelings of sadness like that and just said, "Hi, I'm here, I'm back." Well, the Bible doesn't tell us exactly why Jesus took his time and appeared to them as a stranger, but I wonder if it was a way that Jesus was looking out for his friends. You see, he knew that there would soon be a time when they wouldn't be able to talk to him face to face again. In a few weeks' time, Jesus was going to go back to heaven, and they wouldn't be able to talk to him like I'm talking to you now. You can see me, you can hear me. If you were in the room, we could high five. Jesus knew that there might be times in the future when they were finding things hard, and they wouldn't be able to run to Jesus to ask him questions in person. They'd be able to pray to him, and they could do that at any time, but it would be quite a change from the way that things had been before. And so Jesus took the time to explain to them everything in the scriptures that had been written, to show them that it was all part of God's plan, and that he had never planned to leave them. And in fact, he never would leave them again. And those words, that conversation, gave them hope. And not just hope and excitement in that moment, but for when things had all died down, when they were living life years later, following Jesus still. Those were words that they could cling to, that could give them resilience in tough times. And those words in that conversation were ones that they could share with other Christians too. And Christians down the ages, so that even today, now, people like me haven't seen Jesus face to face, but we've heard those words that those followers shared, and that has helped us to be resilient in tough times, to remember that Jesus is always with us and will never let us go, even when we can't see him face to face. So, as I said, that was a life-changing conversation, and now we're going to reflect on some conversations that we might have in our everyday lives.
I wonder if you've ever had a conversation that has helped you to be resilient. Perhaps a chat with a teacher who pointed out some of your strengths and talents. A conversation with a friend where they told you that they're cheering you on. Or a talk with a family member who has shared some tips and tricks that have helped them in the past. Our relationships can help us to be resilient. When we talk to the people in our lives who care about us, they can help us to grow and help us to see the bigger picture of the situation we're in. So, as we finish our time together today, take a moment to think about the people in your life who you go to help you to grow. Who is it who speaks encouraging words to you, who helps you to see things differently or to understand things in a new way? Perhaps you'd like to talk to Jesus and ask him to help you see a situation differently and to see what he's doing that you might not have realised before. Let's take a moment now to talk to Jesus ourselves in prayer. Dear Lord Jesus, thank you that you loved to spend time with your followers, helping them to understand the big picture so that they could keep on going strong in their journey with you. Thank you for the people that you've given us who help us to be resilient too. Please help us to listen to their wise words and to share thoughtful words to encourage our friends as well. Amen.